Hello and welcome to the Queen's Couch Podcast with our amazing host, Dr. Tanika Victoria. She curates a space for women where all women are encouraged to collaborate and do not collide. Join us on the couch tonight. Hello, 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 hello. How are you tonight? I am here live on the Queen's Couch. So you are with the Queen's Couch on tonight. And tonight we are talking all about queens. How are you healing? So, Nels, I know you see me here alone tonight. We have a special guest, and she will be popping in momentarily. But we want to talk about the Queen's Couch. So, as you know, we are growing, we are thriving. So if this is your first time watching the Queen's Couch, listen, I want you to hit that like and subscribe button, and you will be notified whenever we go live, whenever we release content. And if you are my Queen's Tribe, thank you so much for joining us tonight. I'm excited about our topic tonight, and I'm excited to share with you. So tonight our topic is all about queens. How are you healing? So listen, we're talking all about healing tonight. Many of us are on a healing journey, and so we're going to talk about how you're healing, and I'm going to talk about how I've been healing. Man, it's been a journey. Yes, it has. So, yes, how have I been healing? So, I've been on this healing journey now for about a year. And man, listen, last month was tough. It was really tough healing and trying to learn about what is going on with me. I'm in this stage where I am emotional all the time. Things that I really thought that I was healing from, I'm learning that I need to heal a little bit more. So if you're like me, listen, we're going to talk a little bit. And I'm going to tell you a little story. So last week, I'm in this group and we were all chatting, and I realized that I didn't forgive someone for something that they did to me. So, many of you may not know, when I was a teenager, I was in a relationship that was very toxic. It was a crazy relationship. And so that individual um, did something that just really hurt me. And so I thought all these years that I was over it. And I realized that I wasn't over that. Just talking in therapy, just realizing. So, what do you do when you think that you're over something? And what happens? You're really not over it. And so I just want to tell you to give yourself grace. It's all a part of the process. All of the hurt and all the pain and all the trauma that you went through didn't happen overnight. And so, since it didn't happen overnight, there's layers to this healing. That's why it's a healing journey. That's why it's a journey that we're constantly on. We're constantly talking about this journey. We're constantly saying, hey, what am I going to do here? Why am I feeling this way? So I'm here to tell you tonight that I had to take some steps. So I had to go back to the drawing board and I had to acknowledge, one, I wasn't healed in that area. And I had to make a decision. Was I going to allow that hurt to paralyze me? Or was I going to allow myself to grow and to thrive from what I've learned in that lesson? I'm a different person now. We were young. I was impressionable. So I had to work through that. I had to work through my anger. I had to work through the feelings of fear. I had to work through a lot of different things as I went through that process last week. It was not easy. I had to write out a letter stating how I felt, what I felt, and it was just all a part of the journey. And so as we think about so many different things, so many different um healing journeys, healing things that we're going through, it's been, when I say a journey, yes, it has been a journey. And so let's continue to talk about how we forge through that journey. So, one, I wrote a letter. Two, I had to acknowledge with myself, hey, girl, you need to go back to your therapist to talk about this thing because you don't want that to stop or stunt your healing journey. Of course, we're going to see each other. Of course, because we have a child together, although she's an adult, we're all going to be in the same place at the same time. So I can't allow those things to come up. So when they come up, you got to just regroup. And it's okay. That doesn't mean you're not healing. That doesn't mean if you have a setback or you have a memory, it doesn't mean that you're not healing. It's all a part of that journey. It's all a part of realizing, you know what? I'm getting this out. I'm getting this out of me. I'm getting this healing thing together. I'm moving in a space and a place where I'm learning to heal. And so that's what it's all about. It's all about healing together. And so I want to hear about how you've been healing. You can put it in the comments. You can share. How have you been healing, Queen Tribes? What have you been doing? Have you been taking time to really focus on your mental health? Really focusing on being that happy, positive, feminine woman that you were created to be. Because sometimes when we're hurt and we're broken, we're real rough on the outside. We don't even want to let people in. So as we're thriving and as I'm going through this process, because I am preparing to be someone's wife. And I don't want to be that mean wife. I want to be that wife that is always happy. Her husband is happy to come home. But if you're bottling up hurt, pain, and not doing those things, then that is definitely not what is going to help you on this journey. So we have tonight a special guest. Our special guest tonight is the makeover coach herself. She coaches women on healing, how to heal, what that healing process and journey looks like. And so I'm going to bring her on, but I wanted to share a little bit about my healing journey, how it's going, what it looks like, what it feels like. And it's been a struggle, but I am working through it. I'm working through my fears. I'm working through my anxiety. I'm working through all of the things that I literally do not understand what's going on, but my therapist and my tribe is helping me. So we're about to bring on our coach for tonight, our guest for tonight, and we're going to get started with this conversation. Girl, how are you healing?
Hey, how are you? I
Hello.
am doing amazing. I'm doing great. How are you?
I am doing wonderful. I was just speaking to some of our guests, telling them about my healing journey, and it has been. I had a memory last week, and I realized I didn't forgive someone. I saw we was just talking through. Hey, it doesn't mean that you're not healing, but sometimes you have to make a decision. Are you going to forgive? Are you going to keep moving on? So we just were talking about that until our coach here. So we have the makeover coach, Dr. Taisha Nichole, with us tonight, and we're going to be talking about girl, how you're healing. So we're going to turn it over to you, Tasha, just to tell who you are, what you do, and then we're going to get it started.
Absolutely. I am the makeover coach, Taisha Nichole, Dr. Taisha Nichole. I am all things makeover. So if you know me or you know anything about me, y'all, my hat a little crooked. Y'all give me 2 seconds. The rich auntie vibes is not going on right now. We got the crooked hat going on. But listen, so if you know anything about me, I am all things makeover. I have been doing the conference called the Makeover Conference. And I also have coined myself as the makeover coach. And if you know anything else concerning the author in me, I do have my standalone books called Silent No More, as well as 3 anthologies called Made Over Woman Anthology, which gives women the opportunity to become authors. And I am currently trying to get some other things off the ground concerning the makeover. And then we have our first Rich Auntie Vibes here in Charlotte, North Carolina on September the 7th. So I'm super excited about that. And so the Rich Auntie Vibes is something that's pretty much like a segue up to or leading up to the conference that we have every October. So I'm just super excited about the All Things Makeover and everything that we have to offer. There is a plethora of different things that we will have going on. So all I can say is just stay tuned. I think you're on mute. Yep.
We're about to get it started. So I want to ask you, what brought about you and the makeover coach? Tell us about that journey. Tell us what that looked like. How did you birth this? What made you say, hey, I want to help women be made over from the inside out?
Honestly, it was just my own journey. I over the years had the makeover conference, and I just decided like every Monday I would go live, right? So every Monday I would go live and it would be Makeover Monday. And it just, was given to me to coin myself as the makeover coach. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And I already had my coaching certificate and everything. So I was just like, that definitely resonates with me as relates to who I am, what I do, because I am also a licensed cosmetologist of 20 something years, 20 plus years. So I do hair and makeup. And so it just resonated with who I am and what I do as relates to learning how important it is to be made over from the inside out, because we see so many people who are beautiful on the outside, but on the inside they are ugly. And I never wanted to be that depiction of an individual. Like, people look at me and be like, oh, she's so pretty, but she's so mean and nasty. And so I just wanted to have that as a platform for me to encourage other individuals to not only their character, but also healing journey as relates to themselves and being a holistic woman.
Awesome, awesome. So tell me, what about your own journey makes you unique? What you feel that you can add to a woman's life just because you've walked through your own journey? What are some things that you tell your clients are the first steps to being made over?
Honestly, I think the biggest thing is to thine own self be true. Being honest with yourself and having accountability for yourself. I think that once you're able to be honest and say that these are some of the things that you have done to contribute to some of the things that happen in your life, then that also can, beyond that, can help you to start your healing journey. I think the reality is, sometimes we also have to recognize that we need to be healed. So the first step to me, honestly, would be to recognize and admit that I need healing, and then also understanding that I have to have accountability for what part I take in that healing process as well.
So let's talk a little bit about accountability. Often we hear in the media that women don't like to take accountability, even if she is dead wrong. You'll sometimes see on social media people just endorsing women's behavior because they'll say she's been hurt, she's been broken, but that doesn't excuse the behavior of being mean, projecting onto your partner things that happened in the past. So let's talk a little bit about accountability. What do you feel stops women from being accountable when it comes to relationships, situations that they put themselves in? What stops them from being accountable, and others just endorsing like, oh, it's okay, you were hurt, that's why you did it. So let's talk about accountability, because that is a big part of healing. You have to take accountability.
I believe that there are two things that keeps women from being accountable, and I think that it would be past trauma and and then having emotional intelligence. I think that that is very important. When you are dealing with past trauma, you tend to sometimes even unknowingly project on other individuals, because sometimes you think that you have overcome that. Sometimes you feel like that's not something that no longer bothers you, or you just kind of try to suppress it because you feel like I got it all together. But then the reality is there are these things called triggers that cause you to realize that, oh, wait, hold up, I haven't healed from that particular thing, I haven't healed from that area, or my response is not different or changed in that area, which now comes the emotional intelligence. Because once you begin to understand that this is the trauma, this can be the trigger to that trauma, and then I can choose how to respond to that trigger. And sometimes that emotional intelligence will allow you to be able to tell that individual or that person, hey, this is what I've been through. This is my trigger. This is something that triggers me. It kind of makes me upset. And kind of talk through, like, I'm still working on trying to heal from that area. So if I have to walk away or if I have to step away for a minute, then that's what it looks like for my healing journey, to keep me from responding. I'm remembering, and this is something that I preached a long time ago, was when Jesus went to the mount, when he went on his fast, and the devil tempted him after his 40-day fast, and how Jesus responded with the word, but he did not react in his flesh. And that's something that really resonated with me, that I need to learn how to respond and not react. And sometimes that is actually where it comes, the emotional intelligence, because had Jesus not been emotionally intelligent, he would have had to try to prove who he was. And I think a lot of our triggers also stem from, the insecurities. And I can only speak for myself. One of the things that my triggers stem from was the insecurity of always feeling like I had to defend myself. I didn't have anybody to defend me or to be on my side or to take up for me. So I had to defend myself. So it's also that was one of the things for me. And I feel like Jesus did not feel like, in his emotional, intelligent self, that he had to defend himself and prove to the devil who he was, because the devil was actually tempting him because he already knew who he was. And so sometimes that's even with us. We have to understand and know who we are and control our triggers and take control of those situations instead of allowing them to control us. And like I said, being able to have that emotional intelligence to be able to communicate. One of the things that they always say is really, really big in any type of relationship is communication, is proper communication. But you have to have the emotional intelligence to know how to properly communicate. I know that there is a situation for me that I encountered, which has been a long time situation. And I was able to change the trajectory of that conversation just by my tone of voice. I said what I said, I meant what I said. And I was very stern in how I said it. But my emotional intelligence said, all of this is not necessary, right? All of the popping off
Yeah.
like that is not
Mhm.
necessary.
Mhm.
However, I could talk to you just like this, get you told right. I saw a I saw a saying, one of my friends from a long time, her husband is a barber, and his saying, he said, I will cut you up, but allow God to line you up. And I said, oh, that was good. Cause I'm gonna cut you up, you know, but I'm gonna allow God to line you up. And so for me, there is a way to handle everything. And I'm always asked if there are some things that I would handle differently. And I do believe that there are a lot of things, even in my own testimony and situations, that I would have definitely handled differently. I still would have addressed the situation, but I may have addressed it in a whole different light. So again, that just comes with the territory of knowing what the trauma is, addressing the trauma, admitting that there's a trauma, admitting that you're needing to be accountable even to yourself in that area, to where you know what your triggers are and that you can emotionally, intelligently speak to individuals concerning that, and how you respond is really important, and not reacting. And I always say, don't be worried about what they say about you, be worried about what you give them to say.
That is so true, because sometimes you're gonna be triggered. There it's inevitable that you're gonna be triggered, but then you have a decision to make. Am I gonna let this trigger take me down this spiral, and or am I going to make a decision to work through it, as you said, intelligently, with emotional intelligence, and not set myself back, relationships back? Because sometimes some damage can never be repaired when you say certain things out of your mouth. It sometimes will never be the same, and you want it to be the same, but sometimes you have to realize that I have to be responsible for my actions, and I always have this wheel. Is it on my wheel of control? That's kind
Absolutely.
of what my therapist says. Like, can you control this? Is this on your wheel? Can you handle it? Does it have anything? Can you change it? Is it going to change? If you can't do it, then there's no need to just be worried about that. And so that's one of the things, taking accountability. So I'm glad you talked about that. Some of my guests were talking, some of the my tribe we're talking about just the process. And so when you have a setback, or you feel like, hey, I'm triggered and I didn't handle it in the way that I should, what are some steps to kind of help an individual? What would you tell if I came to you today and say, you know what, I really had a issue and I didn't handle it the best way that I could? What are some steps that you can help that individual? Hey, you can't go back, but the next time, what can you do differently? What can I do differently to work on not reacting that way the next time?
All I can say is go to sleep and start over. That's it. Go to sleep and start over because you can't fix it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you can fix it with an apology, but they always say that an apology with change without changed behavior is manipulation, and so I believe that a lot of times we have to make that apology with sometimes even an explanation. Sometimes, like, hey, I apologize for that because I know it wasn't right and I should have changed my reaction, or I should not have had that type of reaction. And being very intelligent, again, I'm really big on emotional intelligence. I like drill that into my kids, because you can say however you feel and you have the right and you're validated in how you feel, but sometimes having the ability to not only control your emotions as relates to not really just controlling the emotions but just controlling your reaction, can also be knowing how to apologize, right? Because you can tell somebody I'm sorry and then be done with it and not explain, hey, I'm sorry because, and this is how, in those I statements, this is how you made me feel. I feel, or not even you, I'm sorry, I felt like this because, I
Mm-hmm.
felt like this because, like, and just really putting it on you, and allowing yourself to be very vulnerable. And I'll be honest with you, the very vulnerable person that you need to be vulnerable with the most, excuse me, the person that you need to be vulnerable with the most sometimes is yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
being honest with yourself. That goes back to the accountability with yourself, is being honest with myself on sometimes I am triggered in this situation probably because I may not even need to be in this situation at all.
Mm-hmm.
If I had not have been here, then I would not have been triggered in this situation. And so I believe that we just got to be honest with ourselves. And again, to answer your question, I would say, just shake it off, dust yourself off, and try it again. Because the reality is, as you're going through, the tests are going to keep coming till you pass them. And so you're going to
Yeah.
have a chance to do it all over again. Trust me. May not be today, may not be tomorrow, but it's coming up again, and it's going to try you again. So you'll have plenty of time to get it right. So that would be my statement, because we can't beat ourselves over what happened yesterday, but we got to live for today and be prepared for tomorrow.
That is so good. We definitely have to live for the day and be prepared for tomorrow. And so I want to shift a little bit and talk about what are some obstacles you believe women face in their healing journey. And how do you think they can overcome them? Like what are maybe two or three main obstacles to a woman's starting that healing journey and continuing to heal?
Um, I believe that the healing journey for me, or some of the obstacles that are in that healing journey. This hat is getting on my nerves, Lord. In that healing journey is that you have this thing called imposter syndrome. And it's so crazy because a lot of people really suffer from imposter syndrome. And I'm one who deals with it. And I have to fight it every day, right? And that imposter syndrome allows you to feel like you are inadequate, or that you are not worthy of, right? You're not worthy of the status, or you're not worthy of this award, or you're not worthy of whatever. And that can also be a false humility as well.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and I just believe that that could be one of the things. And then self sabotage, like going through that looks like I'm not going to do it because it's going to fail anyway, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to move forward because it's not going to work out anyway. Or last time I did this, it didn't work out. And,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to not do it this way because the last time I did it this way, I'm going to try it. It's not going to work out. And so I believe that once we really master um, knowing how to, I think the word would be speak life over ourselves. Once we master that, because I can't say that I have it together every day, right? I can't say that I am on my A game every day. I can't say that, right? I can't
Mm-hmm.
say that every day I wake up and my feet hit the floor, I'm 100%. I will be definitely lying to say that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I can say this in all transparency. Um, there are times, and there have been times that you and I have been on the phone, and you have said, "Hey, Taisha, let's go. You got this." Even if that just meant I was listening to you on the other end, just working. Listen, I heard that cricket machine in the background, just to work, and it was okay for me. Like I could hear it in the background. I could hear you working. And so at some point it would make me feel like, okay, I can get up. Let me get myself together. And having those people in your life that you can just have to listen to you. And it's not even in a venting. I believe, and it's so crazy because I believe that there was a season in my life that I could have gotten so much work done, right? Because I had those people that I could sit on the phone with and we could work, especially during the pandemic, right? We just sat on the phone and
Mm-hmm.
we could work and we can listen to each other. And when something popped up in my head and I wanted to share something, hey, such, just knowing that there was somebody else on the other line that would respond to you, we would laugh and talk and then maybe go another 30, 40 minutes without saying anything. And so I believe that having those people in your life that allows you to work on you without judgment, work on you without conditional love. I believe that, a lot of times I've seen in my, upbringing, I would, in my opinion, it's conditional love. I will do for you if you. I will only do for you if you. And yes, there does have to be consequences for your actions. There has to be, a punishment for certain things so that you know not to do it again. But if you know that there's something that is going to help me be a better person moving forward, I might not see it now. And I may not hone into it now, but I will catch on to it later and have that prepared and ready for me later. Not saying, oh, well, because you're not doing this now, you'll never be prepared. So I'm not going to put this aside for you later. And so I believe in having people around you that are not conditional in how they love you, not conditional in how they go along your healing journey, and not judgmental. I believe that a lot of times we try to relate to people in an area that we have not experienced. And so, I can only take so much. It's one of those I have to take the meat and spit out the bone type thing, right? From certain people, because I understand that you're trying to help and you're telling me based on your perception and not your experience. And I think that that's something that we have to decipher, is that how people might be speaking to us from their perception, and not their experience. And like I said, to take out the meat and spit out the bone. So I
That
think
that
that
is
those
true.
are the things that we suffer from the most.
I do believe that because sometimes when someone asks you how you're doing, just that simple question, and we're so programmed to say I'm okay,
I'm
even if we're
okay.
not. And so I'm learning when people ask me, and then sometimes people ask you that out of formality, and they really don't want to know how you're doing. And so I've been learning to check myself. Um, in my friend group, if I have a group of people around me that I say is my circle, and they ask me how I'm doing, and I know I'm not doing okay, and I say okay, then I have to check myself and say, okay, what is it about me that I can't be vulnerable with these people that I spent all this time with, that I love, and I won't tell them what's really going on with me, and I'll suffer in silence. Or I'll say how I'm doing, but I really don't want to hear how you're doing. Then don't even say how you're doing. Just say hello and just keep it moving.
Mhm.
And I think sometimes, especially in the body of Christ, we're just taught to sometimes spiritualize everything. So right now I'm reading this book and it's called being emotional healthy spiritually. And one of the things he says in the book is that oftentimes we try to spiritualize everything and not deal with it. Like we're going through these emotional things instead of dealing with the emotions. We'll put a scripture on it, or we'll just try to. And he's not saying don't talk positively, but sometimes you have to deal with these emotions because as you walk in ministry, you're going to have, like you said, the imposter syndrome, and you're going to start wanting to do what man says and not what God says. And he gives this analogy about Saul and why he listened to the people. He did all these ritualistic things, he did all of these sacrifices, but you never really see and hear Paul having this intimate time with God to deal with these things. And not saying that he didn't have them, but it's nowhere in that he said that. So we as Christians like to spiritualize everything. Oh, I'm gonna pray. I'm going to the prayer service. I'm going to, but sometimes you have to deal with the real things that's going on in your life. Especially as Christians, we kind of spiritualize
Mhm.
healing instead of really diving into it. And I tell people all the time, I done went to the altar plenty of times for deliverance, and I really believe I got the help I needed. But then after it was over, nobody told me what to do next. And then a few months later, I was back in the same spot until I got a therapist. Because if not, I was just steady going in the same cycle. I'm going to the altar. Oh, I feel so good. And then a few months later, I'm back in depression again, or I'm back in the cycle again, or I'm back in it because I'm not really dealing with it. I'm just emotionally feeling good, getting prayer. And those are things that help, but you got to deal with the real. And so why do you think people won't deal with the real? Not people. Why the church folks won't deal with the real?
By the church folk.
This is a Christian podcast, so these are the people I'm talking to the most. They're Christians. They love God, but they can pray the house
Well, let
down.
me
They
tell you something. They love God, but they don't love themselves. Woo!
that's it.
The reality is that, and that's Bible. It he basically says, how can you love your neighbor if you don't love yourself? Love thy neighbor as thyself, right? So if, and I use this all the time, if I'm loving me raggedy, I'm gonna love you raggedy because I don't know what it is to love me properly. And so I think that loving me properly is understanding that I need to dive deep into, not surface. Like, we're not doing this surface healing. And I think a lot of the surface healing comes from I just go to the altar and I just read my word. Now, I'm not saying that God won't reveal some things to you, but I think that in that prayer, in that time of fasting and prayer, is God revealed to me
Mhm.
the root issue of my problem, right? You don't just want to get up there and cry it out. That's it. That's all I do is I just cry it out. No, you want to ask God, what is the root issue for my problem, right? A lot of us
Mhm.
are dealing with childhood trauma. A lot of us are dealing with things that we suppress back in our mind, and we're not dealing with it, and it becomes a a major part of our adulthood, and we
Mhm.
can't get it together and we can't figure it out. And sometimes it means that we have to have those hard conversations with the other adults in our lives that may have even unintentionally caused that childhood trauma. And even if they don't want to be accountable for their actions and what they contributed in your
Mhm.
life, you have to be wise enough to know, okay, but this is the issue, right? And tackle that issue. And that's something that I personally had to do. And like I said, this is a journey for me personally, and I can only help those that come in contact, or um in experience this, because I've gone through it myself, right? So I can only help those in those areas. However, I had to really dive deep, like certain things, like, and I was just sharing with a family member of mine. The older that I get, I realize how manipulative, how traumatic, how just out of order things were when I was young. I'm like, so the older I get, I'm like, man, that wasn't right. Like, oh man, like,
Mhm.
no, that's not okay. Like,
Yeah.
somebody had just posted a video, and on the video they were talking about how black moms apologize. Um, Come in the room, hey, get these clothes up, and when you get done getting these clothes up, let me tell me them shoes you wanted again, and uh hey, and after you go do that, then we gonna go get some ice cream, and I'm gonna take you to McDonald's. Now hurry up, do what I said do. There was never a real apology. There was never a, you know what,
Mhm.
son, daughter, I was wrong. I should not have
Mhm.
said that. I should not have done that. And I apologize to you for making you feel um this way. And I'm going to do my best to not make you feel that way. And the reason why I reacted in this way was because I asked you to do this and you didn't do it, or you had a rebuttal for everything that I asked you to do. Like, explain to your children. Like, it was one thing, I will be honest about my dad, that I hated, but now I understand why. But he was like, I wanted y'all to know why y'all was getting a whooping. Okay. Like, I needed y'all to understand
Mhm.
why you was about to
Mhm.
get this tail cut, right? And no lie, my dad laughs to this day because he said, I think y'all paying me back for all them hours worth of long talks we had. Because me and my brothers would call him and keep him on the phone for like 2 or 3 hours at a time. But no lie, before we got a whooping, we would be in there talking for at least an hour, 45 minutes, sometimes 2 hours talking. And I would be, no lie, dozing off. Like, there's no way I'm still getting a whooping after this. There's no way.
Yeah.
And sure enough, after the talk was over, I was still
You got a
getting the
whooping.
whooping. So, and so for me, even though he may not have understood it, but I felt like that was almost like a step into the um, kind of the emotional, intelligent part from an adult perspective, to not just, I want to beat you in this moment just because I'm angry, but also having the respect for you to acknowledge that I need to explain to you why you about to be in trouble or why you are in trouble. And so I have passed out a mini whooping, okay? But, whether it came before or whether it came after, I would explain to my children like this is why you were in trouble. This is why I had to take this approach. Whether it be a whooping, whether it be taking something away. And so I believe that the church has these generational things that they sweep under the rug, that nobody wants to be honest and talk about. Nobody wants to be truthful and talk about. And again, as I got older, and I can't speak for everybody. As I got older, I'm like, you seen this church mother who got 4 different baby daddies and 20 kids. Okay, now wait a minute. Like, wait, where is this at? Like, are we gonna talk about this? Like, you're just telling me, and I think a lot of it is not just you got to explain to me why you did it, but I need you to not just act like I'm saved, sanctified, filled with the Holy Ghost now, and I never did any wrong, right? And I think a lot of that is where they're maybe embarrassed or ashamed to share that, and I think that trickles down. So we figured, we'll just pray it away. We'll just shout it away. And just even when I was explaining about the mother not properly apologizing, even in church, we think that a proper apology is going over to the person I got a problem with or somebody I did wrong, going over to them and we shouting with them. That's the apology. Or, you know, the apology is I see you and we both crying in church and now we giving each other a hug. That's the apology. Now we good. No, that's not the apology. And this person
Mm-mm.
can still be hurting from what it is you said or what it is that you've done. And you sometimes, and I find that people do a lot of the public apologizing or like I said, the hugging and all of that, especially in church for publicity so people can see, oh yeah, they tried to make it right when you secretly still can't stand each other.
Mhm.
So I believe that the church has to dive deep and not do the surface approach to everything as relates to. And I think honestly that the church is doing better with that, because I know that a lot of churches are adding the mental health piece to their church and to that aspect of their churches, acknowledging the counselors and coaches that are a part of their congregation and allowing them to offer services to the pew members, right? And I remember just going through a situation where, in my journey in ministry, that God was just showing me through a past leader what I should look like or what I should not look like, how I should be and how I should not be, and I struggled in that area because I'm like, God, why would you allow me to go through something like this? But the reality is, He showed me, in being a leader, you're going to struggle in these areas, but how will you deal with them? What is your emotional intelligence going to look like? Are you going to be able to be honest with yourself to say, that's an ugly part of me, and I need to deal with that ugly part of me? And as I acknowledge that, which is the counseling side, I can now find out what my issue is so that I know what to pray for. And I believe that that's how, the healing journey, whereas having a counselor and having um, God and prayer and fasting go hand in hand, is, God can also reveal these things to you as well. But having that counselor to, like you said, help you figure out what next steps to take, how to set goals, how to make goals that are attainable, and having that physical person that you can trust and confide in, and talk to and know that there's confidentiality in the room. And again, someone I saw a post was basically saying, when I have a practical situation, I don't necessarily want scripture. And I totally get that, because I don't always want somebody calling me, praying, and giving me scripture all the time either. But then what if, and this was my response, what if they don't know what else to say? What if they don't know what else to do?
Mhm.
What if all they know is to give you a scripture, right?
Mhm.
What if that's all they can give you is a word? And there has been times where, even though I didn't want to hear it in that moment, I was able to grab hold of what it was that they said, even if it was later on, and it was just a
Mhm.
memory of what they said to help me continue to get through the situation. So I just believe that, more churches, more pastors need to, really, really focus on the mental health of their individual congregation members and even themselves, because you will be so surprised at how many people come and they're at church and they're leading and they're having situations, and they smile and they act like it's all okay, and they go home and they're not okay. They're not okay.
Oh yeah.
They're not okay. And so that goes to prove that, even though forsaking not the assembly, and to take everything to the God in prayer is what the song says, right? Take it to the Lord in prayer. Me taking it to the Lord in prayer still does not mean that I'm not fighting for my life.
Yeah.
So just having people in place to help you um, put things into perspective is very important. So I hope that that helps somebody.
Yes, definitely putting things in perspective, and there has been a great shift in talking about mental health in the church, and just going to therapists and being okay with you going to a therapist. I remember back in the day when we were teenagers, people would just say thought if you went to a therapist and you were in church, that you just didn't have faith or you wasn't believing God. And so I'm glad that these taboo thoughts and traditionalism, things that we learn in era, is being unlearned, and that we're learning, hey, these are some things that my congregate needs, because I can't provide this for them, but I can give them suggestions and strategies on what to do. And we can have a holistic approach. We can use my faith and we can use therapy, and we can couple them together to become whole, healed and whole, because sometimes people never become whole because they just keep going through. And there's a difference between just healing and being whole, and so just encompassing all those things to be completely whole is important. And so I definitely um thank you for sharing that. I want to ask you, what are some practical steps um that you, or exercises for my listeners, that they can start today if they were thinking about starting their healing journey? What are some practical steps that you would give them if they just decided, they heard you talking today and say, you know what, I heard Dr. Taisha, I heard the makeover coach, and I'm ready for a makeover? What would be some practical steps you would tell them to start their journey today?
Ooh, let's see here. Let me see if I can pull these up, because the crazy thing is I used to know them um, by heart, but um, I don't know them by heart anymore. Isn't that funny?
Mhm.
So I would think, to be honest, that the practical steps that I would say, and I have 5 of them. One is to love and respect you, right? Love and respect you. Again, we talked about how important it is to love thy neighbor as thyself, and of course, to thy own self be true. To find your why, figure out what it is that gets you up every day. motivates you, what it is that keeps you going. Find your why, and find a coach or a counselor, or all three. And I'm gonna really quickly go over why I say all three, because a mentor is someone who is where you're trying to go, someone who is at the level of expertise, at the level of financial gain or financial literacy, at the level of success that you want to be. That will be where your mentor comes in, right?
Mhm.
And you may or may not always want to share everything with your mentor, right? So having that person in place, to I guess someone that you look up to will be your mentor. Like I said, someone that is um, where you want to be, where you're trying to go. And then a coach is someone who deals with your now, right? A coach is someone who helps you figure out from today what you're struggling with today. How can we apply those struggles in a goal form and say, you're struggling here, let's set a goal for this so that you can be better for tomorrow. Or you're struggling in those pain points. Look at these pain points, and how we can. And there's a really, really fine line between the coach and the counselor, because you use smart goals, right? There's a lot of lingo and things that are the same that coaches and counselors use. However, they are not the same. And there's a lot of that I've realized that is not the same, right?
Mhm.
So to have a coach is someone who can help you Oh, I'm sorry. Okay, but then that counselor is someone who can dive deep into the root of the issue, like can take you all the way back to what it is that is really the core issue and what's bothering you. Health, really focus on those things. Those are really, and I call all of these I factors. Focus on your mental, physical, and spiritual health. Really hone in on that. Mental health part can also mean self-care. That physical part can also mean self-care. And that spiritual part is making sure that your spirit man is uh strong, that you can be able to withstand a lot of what the things that the enemy tries to point at you or bring to you. The word simply says that the weapon is formed, but it won't prosper. And so even though the weapon is formed, you have to be able to have something to combat it with. And that's why we say counseling and God and counseling and church and prayer go hand in hand, because you need to have the word to combat the enemy. And had, again, like I said in Matthew, when Jesus was on the mount, he had to respond with the word, so that he would not react in his flesh. So please make sure that you have the word and hide the word in your heart, that you might not sin against him. Because when you start reacting, you start sinning.
Yes.
And so, um, the other part would be or even write them. I have found that either a Sharpie or a dry erase marker, but more so a Sharpie, you write on your mirror. It's okay to write on your mirror. Write on your mirror, even if it's just in a corner, something that you want to see every single day. And last but not least, I call this FU, and that's forgive you and others. You have to that's a very large piece is not forgiving yourself can lead you down a road to destruction or imposter syndrome because you begin to feel like you're not adequate or good enough to do things because you haven't forgiven yourself for some of the things that you may have done or encountered. So just those things I know that was a lot, so I'm just going to briefly go through them. Focus your focus on your mental, physical, and spiritual health. Focus your focus on your mental, physical, and spiritual health. Be at peace with you, affirm yourself daily, and forgive you and others. And those are my 6 I factors that I developed a long time ago. And I do have a workbook called the Makeover I Factors that will allow you to basically set these things into motion and kind of a journaling type workbook where you actually set goals for yourself. So yeah, that would be my answer to that question.
Thank you so much. We are almost about to wrap up. And so we want to thank you for sharing with us tonight, talking about, girl, how you're healing. It's not easy, but it's worth it. And I tell people that all the time. It's not easy. Healing is not the easiest thing. And that's why people don't want to do it. It's going back, it's dredging up things, it's going deep in your heart. And so you've built these walls to protect yourself. And it's like you got this band-aid and you just rip it off and you gotta get in there. And it's hurting while you're telling these stories and while you're going back and you're remembering things that you don't want to remember. But in the end, once you get the tools and strategies and you replace all of that negativity with what truly you were created to be, back to your
Yeah,
original
I would
intent.
say another.
Go ahead. Oh, I can't hear you. I think you paused a little bit.
Yeah, I think another thing that we can do too is write out how um, we're feeling, and in that journal, people call it journaling, whatever you want to call it. Write it out and get it all out, and because sometimes we have some deep dark stuff. Get it all out. And I don't know if anybody has ever done this. I am like I do this a lot, or I've done this a lot, where you've written a letter to somebody and you got it all out and you
Mm-hmm.
forget to send it because you got it all out your system. You
Yep.
said everything you needed to say, and
Yes.
you'll literally put it in the envelope, put the stamp on it, put their address on it, your return address, and you get ready to send it, and you forget to send it because you got it all out of your head. And same thing with
Yeah.
ourselves. Get it all out. And when that time comes, take that journal, take that notebook, take whatever, and burn it and be done with it and be away with it and be done away with it and start a whole nother journal. And the reason why is because a lot of stuff, once you get it out, you'll forget everything that you wrote about or how you felt anyway. Um, and I hear people, especially when it comes to like people who are divorced, they be like they were so mad in that moment and they look back later and they be like, what was I mad about again? Or they be like, what I was mad about really wasn't even that serious, you
Mm-hmm.
know so I believe that just writing it out and throwing it away, casting it into the sea of forgetfulness, burning it and letting it go will also help in your journey to healing and wholeness. I believe that when you're healed, is different than being whole. And the woman with the issue of blood, she was looking to be healed from her ailment. And when she touched the end of his garment, he told her, "You have been made whole. Because of your faith, you've been made whole." So I think that we should journey to be whole in this season and not just healing from our
That is true. You have moving from just being healed into being whole. They're two totally
You
different
there?
things. Totally. you know, and so we definitely definitely need to move from that space. Being in every area of your life, you want things to be the way that they are designed to be, and that's wholeness. In your emotions, in your will, in your soul, and finances, just everything being in place. That's when it's complete wholeness, because you don't want one area to be lacking and the other one is here and you're here, and you just don't have that connectivity of everything you're supposed to be. So you definitely want to be whole. And so I thank you for sharing that on tonight. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being on the Queen's Couch tonight. So I always ask my guests, if you have one word you would like to leave with our guests on tonight, what would it be?
Um, I have several sayings, so I'm just going to give y'all two words. The first one is that a glow stick can only glow when it's broken. A glow stick can only serve its purpose when it's broken. And if anybody knows anything about a glow stick, you know you have to break it in order for it to glow. So, in your broken state, in your state of trauma, and what it is that you are going through, know that as you continue to heal, you will also continue to glow. If you're taking this as a healing in your broken state, taking this as a healing, you will continue to glow. So again, a glow stick can only serve its purpose when it's broken. And my other one is, if it doesn't evolve me, it does not involve me. If it does not evolve me, it does not involve me. And I believe that as we move in our healing journey to wholeness, that we should always seek to be in spaces and seek to be in, you know, areas in our lives with people who allow us to evolve and be better than we were yesterday, be a better version of ourselves. And that's who we should be involved with. So, again, if it does not evolve me, it does not involve me.
Thank you so much for those words, your parting words. Thank you for being on the Queen's Couch. And so thank you so much for being on the Queen's Couch. This is the
You're on
place
mute.
where am I I'm back. Can you hear me again? Can you hear me? I was there. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. You have been with the Makeover Coach, Dr. Taisha Nichole. And so she shared with us some very important tips and tools to help us on our healing journey. If you're in the middle, you're in the beginning, or you're just on your
Absolutely.
way to wholeness. So thank you so much. You have been on the Queen's Couch. This is the place where queens collaborate and do not collide. So join us next week on the couch. Thank you so much. Hello and welcome to the Queen's Couch podcast with our amazing host, Dr. Tanika Victoria. She curates a space for women where all women are encouraged to collaborate and do not collide. Join us on the couch tonight.